Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Celtics have to win the NBA title this year, right? So, are they going to? Also, the New England Patriots don't have Tom Brady or Bill Belichick, but still might hold the keys to the whole NFL offseason. And Doc Rivers, please stop talking. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Boston Celtics are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. They're the favorite to win the title. They've got a 7-game lead in the East, and they just beat the brakes off the Chicago Bulls 129-112. But when I asked Locked On NBA and Locked On Mavericks host Nick Angstad who was under the most pressure in this sprint to the finish, he said this.
The team, I think, with the most pressure on them right now is probably the Celtics to me, because they've got it. You've got all the players. You've got the thing set up. You've been to the finals once. You've been deep in the playoffs. As someone that covers the Mavericks, there's a weird Tatum stands and Luka stands. There's a weird rivalry between the two where they go, well, Tatum's been there. And you're like, yeah, man, you've won like 50 playoff games and still haven't won a title yet. And so you're starting to get to a point where it's now expected of you to get there. You're the best team in the NBA. The pressure should be on them at this point. Yeah. And for Joe Mazzulla, like, if they fail early on in the playoffs, what's going to happen is all of a sudden all that stuff from, remember he was watching that movie, that Ben Affleck movie all the time? The Town, yeah. Yeah, remember he was watching, is all that weird stuff going to pop back up again? So I think the pressure is on them.
John Corrales from Locked On Celtics joins me now. John, your reaction, but the pressure's on you now. The most pressure on any team, the Celtics.
Let's talk about the Mavs for a minute. I would say that it's fair to say that there's pressure on the Celtics. I think some of the pressure is also unfair. Yes, the Celtics have had a lot of success in the Tatum and Brown era, but that doesn't change the fact that Jason Tatum is 24. He's about to turn 25. And this is about the time great players win championships. Steph didn't win till he was 26. LeBron didn't win till he was 27. KD didn't win till he was 28. So that's kind of the time frame, especially nowadays when guys come into the league at like 19 and they've been around for a while. And look, Tatum walked into a team that was supposed to win, and he took them to, he and Jaylen Brown took them to a height after the Gordon Hayward injury and Kyrie missed the playoffs. That was an incredible early run. They had the Kemba Walker era where they had success. They've had success like in 3 different iterations of this team, and now they're doing it in another completely different team with Mazzulla now and with the Porzingis and Holiday acquisition. So there's validity to that argument. And you know what? Because of the second apron and because of the new financial reality of the NBA, there is not a lot of time for Boston to capitalize on what they have here. So I would say the pressure that Boston is facing might be more CBA related than kind of narrative related.
Well, but those are related, right? Because if from a team building standpoint and a team outlook standpoint, you have pressure right now to win. I think there's also part of this too, John, where it's like, well, you made these changes. You made the big Marcus Smart move. You bring in Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart out the door, Kristaps Porzingis in the door. You're the best team. This is the best team in the NBA. If you can't do it now, doesn't that make you go,
when are you going to do it?
Right, exactly right.
And look, they have proven.
I sound like the Celtics fans in the group chats now.
there's and this is the weird place here, because on one hand, winning an NBA title is hard. Winning an NBA championship is very, very difficult. And who knows? Everybody wants to talk about injuries, but who knows who catches fire somewhere along the way? You catch a team like Miami last year, and weird things happen in the playoffs. And some of it is in your
comes
control.
back, Giannis goes on a heater, like stuff happens.
Who knows? Right. Embiid comes back and all of a sudden they have Buddy Hield. And if he's healthy and they go on a run and you lose to Embiid and Philly makes a run, like you say, yeah, Boston has the players and this is the time to make your run. But also other things have to fall into place. There's always some element of luck. But yeah, the Celtics have a limited window because if they don't win this year, I'll give them next year. But after that, it's kind of not financially feasible to keep this particular team together. So I see it from both sides, where one side will say, look, everything has to go right still, even with the best team. And on the other side, it's like, yeah, but you're the best team and easily the best team in the NBA. Like the Celtics should win the championship this year. No other team has proven themselves to be close to Boston in the long haul. So, I can absolutely see why people would be saying that.
Stay up to date all year on the Boston Celtics by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Celtics on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, will the Patriots flip the NFL on its head? Before we answer that, the Lakers and Warriors jockey for position in the Western Conference. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Get those same-game parlays in for even bigger payouts. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. The Sixers are home dogs tonight to the Cavaliers. Losing Joel Embiid has just cratered Philly's chances this year. FanDuel likes Cleveland on the road by 4.5. FanDuel, official partner of the NBA and official sportsbook of Locked On. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. The Warriors hosted the LeBron-less Lakers in a battle of two teams that desperately needed this game in the West.
My initial impression from this game, it was complete. Kerr played the right players in the fourth quarter. He went young, which solved, in my opinion, the huge issue that's been the worst fourth quarter defense in the NBA, statistically speaking. That's the Golden State Warriors, which explains why they've blown so many leads. And he went young. We saw a lot of Trace Jackson Davis minutes in the fourth quarter. We saw Moses Moody. We saw Kuminga. I'm going to give Wiggins his love tonight. He played great as well.
Man, this was in my opinion, a must-win game. Just to start this whole second half of the season is obviously going to be crucial for the Warriors. And are the Lakers above us? Just one above us in the standing? Still, and we lost that game that we should have won. We had to have this one. So feel good to get it done. And as you said, to see Steve playing the right players and playing people who can move their feet and stay in front of people, that's key.
The Magic traveled north to face the Cavs in a matchup that actually does have playoff implications in the Eastern Conference. No, seriously.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers 116-109 coming out of the All-Star break. This is the kind of game that tells you exactly who the Orlando Magic are and what they're about. We hear Coach Jamal Mosley say, play by committee. We play by committee. We score by committee. Everyone is going to do something to contribute to this team and to their success. And this was a game that exemplified all of that. Paolo Banchero was off. He missed his first 6 shots. He was under the weather. He looked every bit of it. It took him a while to get going in this game, and he never really did, but the Magic had several players step up, none more than Mo Wagner, who led the team in scoring with 20-plus points. Cole Anthony hit big shots. Jonathan Isaac hit big shots. Gary Harris hit big shots. Everyone came together to make sure this team won. They got turnovers. They converted on their opportunities. They held firm when Cleveland made their run. It was a mature win and a big boost for a Magic team that's looking to make a push after the All-Star break.
The Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl. They also just signed Buffalo Bills punter Matt Araiza. This comes after he was dismissed in December from a lawsuit alleging the rape of a 17-year-old girl back in 2021. The Chiefs punter of 4 years, Tommy Townsend, will hit unrestricted free agency next month. He was named a first-team All-Pro last season. The 23-year-old Araiza played in college at San Diego State. He was drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the 6th round of the 2022 NFL draft, but never played in an NFL game after the sexual assault allegations came to light. The gentrification of Brooklyn may soon be fully complete. Brooklyn Nets owner Joe Tsai has discussed the possibility of selling a minority stake in the franchise to the Koch family, according to a report. Yes, that Koch family. The family's investment vehicle, 1888 Management, could potentially buy a stake in BSE Global, Tsai's holding company that not only controls the Nets, but the WNBA's New York Liberty and Barclays Center. Remember, Tsai bought the Nets from Mikhail Prokhorov in 2019 after buying 49% of the team from the Russian billionaire the year before. And in baseball news, the Pirates actually can sign players to long-term extensions. Who knew? They locked up ace Mitch Keller on Thursday.
And Mitch Keller and the Pittsburgh Pirates on Thursday morning, this fine Thursday morning, agreed to a 5-year extension that starts this season, by the way. A lot of people were asking about that pretty early on when this extension would start. It does start this year. Mitch Keller is locked up as a Pittsburgh Pirate for the next 5 years. And this is something instant reaction wise to this, that you look at it and you say that this was something, one, that I'd been calling for and a lot of Pirates fans have been calling for throughout the offseason to get this done. Keller was coming off of a career season last year, and in the span of a year, he has been named the opening day starter, been named an all-star, and now has been signed to an extension with the Pittsburgh Pirates, the team that drafted him. And the Pirates have committed now $250+ million over the past 3 seasons to internal players.
Tom Brady might be gone. Bill Belichick might be gone. And yet somehow the New England Patriots find themselves once again in the middle of the NFL offseason with the 3rd overall pick, with quarterback questions, with a new regime coming in. They may well be the pivot point in the draft. With quarterback questions, they could be in play for someone like Kirk Cousins. Everyone wants to talk about the Patriots, including Mike DeBate from Locked On Patriots, who loves to talk about the Patriots. No one better to talk about the Patriots. Mike, before we get to the draft, how likely is it that the Patriots make a move at quarterback, which renders all of this top 3 quarterback stuff moot?
Honestly, I would probably have told you before we spoke, or at least last week at this time, that there was a very slim to none chance that the Patriots would do that they would probably be looking at the number 3 pick in the draft and going with a quarterback. But at this point, you have to consider all options on the table with the New England Patriots. Look, you know as well as I, Daniel Jeremiah gives his annual press conference and conference call with the media each and every Thursday before the start of the combine. And when he starts throwing out trade scenarios and saying you can pick up a couple of firsts in the next draft and you can trade down and get somewhere near the number 13 pick, which might allow the Patriots to take an offensive tackle, which might be able to shore up their line, which struggled mightily in 2023 and even back into 2022. All of a sudden, you have to start considering these things. You hear Alex Van Pelt in his introductory press conference say everyone gets a clean slate. All of a sudden, that may mean Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi could still be on the table with the New England Patriots. And then you also look at some of the veteran options out there. You mentioned Kirk Cousins. Justin Fields, until he gets the stamp of approval from Chicago, I'm not convinced he's going to be back there. Can he be pried away? These are all things that the New England Patriots have to consider. So right now, I would say anything and everything are on the table. My gut reaction still tells me they go quarterback at number 3, but I don't think it's necessarily the foregone conclusion everyone has assumed it will be.
Well, and the other thing, Mike, is if they're gonna issue quarterback and say, okay, you know what we want to do? We want to do what Ron Wolf, Elliot Wolf's dad, Elliot Wolf now running the show in New England, always did, and build from the trenches. Well, if you go from 3 to, let's say, 6, because the New York Giants want to go to sit from 6 to 3 to get a quarterback, you can probably get either Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu from Penn State at 6. And so now you're in the same position you would have been at 3 with some draft capital that you didn't have before. This all comes down to how much you think New England actually wants to get a quarterback, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, and it depends on how much value those three quarterbacks at the top of the heap are valued in that New England war room. You know Elliott Wolf's tendencies. He's worked in Green Bay before, and not to mention the legendary work that, like you said, his father Ron did in building those great Green Bay teams that, that were exactly. And that was it. It was built from the trenches. So do you decide that's the that's the way you want to go and that's the method that you want to use? Or are those guys at the top of the heap in the draft room, meaning a Caleb Williams, a Drake May, or a Jaden Daniels, are they your quarterback of the future? If you're absolutely certain that these guys are the franchise guys, I don't see how you trade that pick away. You go for a quarterback at number 3. But if you're not sold on those quarterbacks, then I think the Patriots are very seriously going to consider trading out of that spot. Honestly, Peter, I would probably say it's in their best interest to trade out of that spot unless they're going to go quarterback at 3. And if you're going to go quarterback at 3, obviously you need to remain there to get one of the top guys in this draft. But they're not going quarterback. I don't see them hanging on to it.
So you're saying the move is either take Jaden Daniels, Drake May, whoever ends up being there at 3, or trade down because someone is going to want to come up and get that quarterback. And it makes sense to get all the pieces, whatever you're going to get, because you're probably going to get a lot. It's a quarterback. You're going to get at least a future first and then go from there, because this team, let's be honest, it has some holes. It has some flaws, and they are not ready to compete in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's an argument out there, and there's a small sect of Patriots fans that would say, well, go for Marvin Harrison Jr. He is a generational talent. Absolutely, really, he's a generational talent. There's no question about it. I'd love to see him in a Patriots uniform. But if you take Marvin Harrison at number 3 without a solid quarterback to throw him the ball, without a proper offensive line to block and make sure he's able to run those routes and hit those targets, you're going to risk disenfranchising the player. It's kind of like buying an expensive sports car, but not having the proper garage or the proper driver to make it look good and protect it. You do run that risk, and then you're essentially wasting that talent. So I don't think the Patriots would necessarily be wise to go in that direction. I understand wanting to get someone of his caliber, but at the same time, you also have to take a look at all of the holes, like you said, Peter, that the Patriots have to fill. It's beyond just quarterback. It's offensive line. It is wide receiver. A pass-catching back is out there. Team is always looking to upgrade on defense, even though their defense played pretty well last year. DeMarcus Covington, still a lot of Belichickian influence, talked about fundamentally sound football on the defensive side of the ball in his introductory conference on Wednesday. Wouldn't shock me to see the Patriots put some value there as well in the middle to late rounds. So a lot of things that the Patriots have to look at. It's not just about finding that one player to contend. They're still a long ways away.
Stay up to date all year on the New England Patriots by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Patriots on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Doc Rivers is talking too much, and man, he just needs to stop. The Milwaukee Bucks thought Doc Rivers would be the one to take them to the next level. Instead, he just seems to be criticizing them in the press and not doing much else. Locked On NBA host John Corrales and Jake Madison believe he needs to stop.
The press tour he's had over the past 24 hours is got to be one of the most baffling things I think I have ever seen. And there's no, he's going to be fine, because we'll get into that part actually. But this dude just needs to shut up. Straight up, Doc Rivers just needs to stop talking. This is not helping him. There's no reason to say any of the things that he's saying right now. He went on some, I don't even know where the quote came from, right? Went out and talked about how this job was way harder than he thought it was going to be. Now they're 3-7 in his 10 games there. Of course this was going to be a hard job. They fired their head coach mid-season before anyone expected that in his first year. This is a bit of a mess of a situation, and he was brought in to try and stabilize it. He's not doing it as well as he would like yet. There was time to figure this out. No one was going to be critical of Doc Rivers for a 3-7 start. We didn't think he's going to lead them to a title necessarily, but no one was upset about his first 10 games there, I guess, other than Doc Rivers. And then after that, he goes on another podcast and gives an interview saying when the Bucks called him to be we want to hire you, we're gonna fire Adrian Griffin, he was no, don't do that, right? That's a bad idea. Why would you do something like that? And then he's well, they told me they already did it, so then I accepted the job. Oh my goodness, man. Like, I don't know what he's doing here, right? Like, this is almost like he's trying to, and JJ Redick ripped him for like making excuses for why the Bucks are 3-7. Like, that's definitely what he's doing here. And it's kind of weird, right? Like, who is he trying to make excuses to?
Just coach. We don't need the excuses. We know what the excuses are, Doc. And we don't need the excuses for the other stops. We know this is a weird situation. We know it's not going great. Just go coach. You came to coach Giannis and Dame Lillard. You came to bring a title to Milwaukee, where you went to college and are an all-time great. Jersey in the rafters. Just go coach. And finally, fanatics have ruined Major League Baseball uniforms in pretty much every way. Images of the uniform began surfacing as soon as spring training began, and no one was happy about them. Now players are saying the pants are see-through. The Nike-branded Fanatics-produced equipment were touted by Commissioner Rob Manfred as performance uniforms. Guessing by performance he meant more slide and steel than he did Chippendale, but who's to say for sure? Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, how far will the defending NBA champion Nuggets go this year? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.